Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent experiences in business.
Learn what their cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again.
Welcome, Akeela Davis. Thank you so much for being part of the Conversation with Cohesive Leaders podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's nice to be able to tell your story. I think that's a great theme.
That is great. And our listeners will be able to know a little bit more about you because your company is called Courageous Business Culture Incorporated. And you and I had some preliminary conversations talking about culture and leadership and collaboration and what all of that may look like. And so you just became like a real perfect person for this podcast. We're really speaking to these up and coming emerging leaders who are looking to grow, develop, and advance their career. And I think you'll have quite a bit to offer our audience. So once again, here we go. So we like to start off with something called connections before content. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be an opportunity for you to talk a lot about your role in your company and things of that nature. But for right now, we're going to address it from a personal perspective. And we want to know a little bit about you. So tell us something about you that is not on your resume.
Well, it's amazing how our brain forgets some things. When I was 15, I was involved in something called the Junior Achievement Program. And it was a summer program that they set up to teach young people to become entrepreneurs. And if we were a group of 5, our company we made candle holders. So we collected tin cans from families and friends. We had the operation, somebody had a blowtorch and they would design the cans. I was the salesperson. I would go and sell it to stores or people and things like that. And it was a really interesting experience, especially for somebody who came to hate the word sales or being a salesperson. But it was really interesting because we also sold shares in the company to, again, family and friends. And at the end of the summer, they got back for every $1 they gave us, they got back $1.10.
Oh, nice.
That is awesome.
That is really awesome. That's really great. Well, thanks for sharing that little insight, to you, the little perspective. But Ben likes to know a little bit about your I. So Ben, take it away.
Absolutely. And I do want to say welcome. We are now an international podcast. Akeela, you are located where?
I'm located in Vancouver, Canada.
Excellent. So that's exciting. And then, so this question is, a lot of folks they go right into what you do. I want to know more about who you are, as your identity. What are the behavior traits that you love to be known for? What are your interests? Who are you as a person, not as a role or a hat that you wear?
Well, that is a great question. I am a person who likes to do what I believe in. I like to enjoy what I'm doing. Life is too short not to. And integrity is one of my greatest values. And if anything is ever out of integrity, and there's been several examples of that in my life, I move away from it because that is not me. So does that give you an idea of who I am?
Absolutely. Now, do you confront those conversations or just move away? Like, how do you handle that?
Oh, I talk about it because and I would explain it to somebody. I'll give you a good example. One of my careers, this is my 3rd career, by the way. One of my careers was as a financial advisor. And when I joined in Canada, you have to be part of a brokerage organization of some sort. And I went with one company because they were excellent. Even if you have your own company, you have to be affiliated. And they were excellent. The gentleman who owned it was absolutely amazing. And then he died, and his son took over. And he brought in investors, and those investors were not people first investors. They were money first investors, which is why they invested. That's fine. But once they started doing things that are not in the best interest of our clients, I sent him a letter telling him how I felt and why I felt. And his response was, Akeela, I can see your frustration on the page. Let's have a talk. And we did, and we parted company amicably because I just could not continue to do things that were not in the best interest of my clients.
Wow,
You know,
that speaks
Akeela,
volumes.
that is just so fantastic, because oftentimes we lack sometimes the fortitude to really stand up for something because we're afraid that we won't get it back, or we're afraid that that we won't be seen in a favorable light, and we begin to compromise some of our values. And I really appreciate you sharing with our listeners how you can stand up for your values and speak your mind, and still still separate from that situation with all of your integrity still intact, without you having to do it. Because once you give your integrity away, then it has the opportunity to dwindle more and more that happens. So,
Well, there's that, and I think it eats away at our self-esteem.
yeah, it does.
Absolutely. You mentioned your 3 careers, so now I'd love to learn a little bit about what you're currently doing. And Troy mentioned the business name, but tell us what you do and how you make integrity. How do you live out your own value within your career now?
Okay. I actually have 3 businesses under the same umbrella. And essentially what I do is I am a consultant for corporations, both in training and in helping them. I call myself a culture renovator. So I'm a culture renovator, and it's also on engaging people in a way that is more meaningful to them. It's just a different way of doing what you do. And I like what you do. To me, there's a lot of synergies there. And that's what Dr. Troy and I were talking about.
Yeah.
So the fact is that I would go into an organization. First, we do a survey that gives us a benchmark. We would then, if we are hired by them after we've done what we're doing, we do another survey so we can measure the difference. And, it can be lower, it can be higher. If it's lower, we know exactly why. If it's higher, we know exactly why. And that becomes the benchmark for future engagements. But, and that is a part of what I do, because part of me is I want to leave a legacy. And I brought this tool to North America, and I train and certify practitioners in using it. Well, I couldn't tell them that I was training and certifying them for something if I didn't know it worked and I could prove it to them. So that's why I took on the consulting part.
Yes.
And now it's really interesting how that is going. And then there's the third company I've had for quite a while. It's as a strategic coach, and it's about career coaching. So I understand the employees at their level. I work with leaders at their level, and I train and certify people on both levels so that they can help to integrate those organizations.
That is really excellent. And I really just, I think that our listeners can really glean a little bit of information from this to really understand the fact that you have values that you stick to, you have a plan, you're able to respond to the needs of others. So it's not just like you're hopefully putting something out there and that somebody will get it. You have a very specific need that you've identified, which makes you really innovative with that. So you've had all these experiences, which is really awesome. So let's get to the meat of the experience. And we're not going to ask you how many you've had, so it's quite okay for that, because I've certainly have had my share. But what we would like to know is, what is an experience that you can share with us? And this experience would be something that would be maybe considered a mistake, or something that didn't turn out quite as well as you would have liked it to have turned out. And so just pick one from your experience and share with us. What would that be?
Okay. Remember, I just said I used to be a financial advisor.
Yes.
Well, this one occurred at the end of my financial advisory career. I had spent 15 years building a business. I got it to the point where I had 10 people working for me, and it was great. Except that I found that I was not as happy as I used to be. When I first started the business, I started it to help people. I loved working one-on-one with people. And as the business grew, I kept becoming more and more and more of the manager and was the owner of the company. And one day, I had people lined up at my door because they had questions, they wanted something. And by 4 o'clock, I had a client appointment. And by the time that appointment, I was getting close to the appointment, my head was hurting so badly. And then I had my appointment, and after that appointment, there was no headache. And I thought, what am I doing to myself? I started this business to help people and have the freedom to do what I want to do, to be who I wanted to be. And now I am looking after all of these people. That's not what makes me happy. And I made the decision to sell the company. Yeah. And that came with a lot of angst as well, because so many of my clients had become friends. And to have to leave them was not easy. My saving grace was the person whom I had hired, another gentleman, and I had trained him to do the business. So when I was ready to sell, he was the one who was buying it. So I knew I was leaving them in good hands. It wasn't until a few years later when I took an assessment, and as I was reading it, I thought, oh my God, so that's why I sold my business. And that's why I did that. It was like somebody pulling back the curtains, and I could see that in reality, that was an moment. If I had the information that I had at the time I made the discovery, if I had that back then, I probably, most likely, would have taken a different path.
Got it.
Yeah.
That truly makes sense, right? When you think about it, having information at your fingertips is important, and we sometimes recognize later on. But here's the good news: is we can't go back and worry about what we did before, right? Because it's already done and over with.
But it can inform you on the future.
That's right. In the future is exactly right. So it's where we want to get. So what do you think that this cost you in terms of either time, money, angst, communication breakdown, whatever it is? What did you not having, or you having this moment, what did it cost you?
It cost me a lot of great relationships. It did cost me money. It cost me the ability to build on that, and that business is still in existence today. But I could have still owned it just if I had done something differently. And let me explain what that was all about. When I got my assessment, I realized that my top motivators were three things. One is called the spirit. And that's the one where I want freedom. I hate to be doing a lot of paperwork. I hate to be doing a lot of compliance. And in a financial business, compliance was getting worse.
Yes. So you and Ben are very much in alignment there.
And the fact, and one of the other things, because I'm a spirit, when I treat my employees as if they are adults who knows how to do something, have a delegated job and expect it done. But what I learned, of course, and you know this, is there's some people who can do that and some people need directions. They need to be told what to do or they aren't going to be engaged in their work. They're afraid of so many things. So being a spirit, the one thing I didn't realize is that I considered myself in my head a babysitter, and I didn't like being a babysitter. And at the time, I didn't know that perhaps what I should have done is find a good manager or the guy that I trained, put him up to VP, and he took care of all of that, and I did the things I wanted to do.
Right.
You know, there were so many other potential solutions that would have created a stability for my husband, because he just saw me as calling this and going off and starting something new again, which I kind of like to do. But so that was one of the first ones. That's why I sold the business. The other one is understanding why I like to do this. My second one is a creator, a problem solver. And I used to joke to others that you have a problem. If you come to me, even if you don't want a solution, I'll give you one. But the whole idea is I've built my life on see a problem, fix the problem. Even when I was working for employers. And not knowing that, I couldn't capitalize on that either.
Right. So remind us again, what was the first one?
I'm a spirit. Yeah.
Spirit, and then innovator.
A creator, which is
Creator,
definitely
a spirit and creator. And what was the third?
A searcher. I need
searcher.
to make a difference. I need to do things with purpose. I just couldn't spend my life earning tons of money and it doesn't benefit somebody that I can see that is benefiting them. And those are my top 3 motivators. And apparently, those are responsible for 60 to 70% of your unconscious decisions and behaviors.
Wow. Sounds actively like within cohesion with your own plan back then, creating the team, you want to be part of somebody, but the value, you wanted to have meaningful work and then working with others and seeing that big picture all put together. I mean, that's a big part of what we teach is that when you know how you're making a difference, you will love what you do more. So you were missing 2 of those ingredients, and that's why it was a challenge, and you weren't enjoying, you weren't engaged with it anymore, and you wanted to get rid of it. Makes sense to me.
Yeah. And that's where, like I said, we have to know who we are. Self-awareness is my biggest mantra. Is if we aren't self-aware, how can we be the people we are?
So that might be a segue into the answer to this question is, how did you change it, or how would you change your uh-oh? Your uh-oh was selling the business, right? So what would you do to change that experience now, looking back, or now?
Well, now I do my motivational map regularly. Every year I do it, or if I'm feeling confused. If I can't move on because I can't decide, there's something going on in that subconscious I need to know. Because we can have conflicting motivators. And that will cause indecision. It'll cause confusion. It will cause a lack of clarity. So once I do it, okay, so that's what it is. It allows you, when you know what it is, again, it allows you to reconcile or decide which one is more important to you at this point in time, which will get you to where you want to go. So that's one of the things we do. I do it, as I said, at least annually, because motivations, unlike personality assessments, motivations change. Motivations it takes into consideration your past, your experiences, nature, nurture, everything you have grown up with, everything that went into your subconscious when you didn't, between the ages of 2 and 7, when you didn't make choices as to what went in there. it also comes from your present, your self-concept. If you think you can do something, you're more motivated to do it. If you don't think you can, you would tend to avoid it. And it comes from the future. It's our expectations of the future. I always joke that most university students never completed their only completed their degrees because they expect to get a better paying job because of it. They didn't do it for the love of learning. I said most, not all.
Right. Yes, exactly. All right. So what we have here is you have an experience where there was lacking some information that would have been helpful for you to have had, or at least maybe not information, but a different perspective of how you could do it. So you could have rearranged your org structure to allow you to still do some of the things that you want to do. So what our listeners who are thinking through and realizing, oh, wow, I've made some choices and decisions where I didn't have all the information I needed. The fact is, you didn't quit. You just reinvented what it was that you needed to do. So that will be helpful for people to understand if they make a mistake and not have enough information. They just have to reinvent themselves or reinvent the situation or the conversation. We understand that it also takes like fortitude. It takes discipline, rigor, integrity in the choices that you make so that your reputation will be intact regardless of the the rough edges that are going to happen along the way. So that's really great that we've been able to put that together, think about that and how that'll work. Now, what we'd like to ask you is, many of our listeners are individuals who are dissatisfied with their current employer because they're not getting the training and development that they deserve, or they're being passed over for a promotion without a plan for improvement. What are 2 or 3 things that you would say to an individual who wanted to improve where they were in their work career? What would you say to them that they should do, and aside from what we've already covered?
Yes. I didn't expect that question because I don't want to answer it in a self-serving way.
Okay.
But this is where, again, knowing who you are. Can I describe the motivational map to you? And, if you are going to cut this, please feel free to cut out any portions you don't want.
Oh, no, this podcast goes
one
from
take.
start to finish, one take. Everything you say, it's included.
Okay. Because I didn't, like I said, I don't want to be self-serving.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, Akeela, I'm giving you permission to turn off your humility button. So you can put the humility button on hold and just speak your mind.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. This is where the motivational map comes in. We all have 9 motivators. Okay. And what motivational map does, it uncovers your motivations. It doesn't create it. And then it also tells you your level of satisfaction with each. So for somebody who's not getting the training they want, it will show it. And if it's not one of their top 3 motivators, anything that is below a certain number is considered, it can become a demotivator. Even though it's not a motivator, it can become a demotivator because it's not being satisfied at a minimum level. And that is giving that person the information. They could take it to their manager and say, look, this is causing me to be demotivated, which is costing you money. How much would it cost? Give me the courses that I need so I'm feeling more empowered and more engaged in my work. Because that would be a lot less than what it would cost to replace this person. If they're not only losing the person's talent, they're losing the knowledge that this person has. Yeah. So, and it goes through all of those. One of the most common problems I find with people who are dissatisfied at work is they're bored. They've been in that position 5 to 7 years. They know it inside and out, and they're now bored. And if they don't know it, they can't talk to their managers about it. And the managers never think that this person is so good at what they do. Why would they be bored? So it's a conversation starter between management and people, and it helps you to understand yourself and what you need, and it helps management to understand you and what you need. And it ties into how you can use this information to become a more cohesive organization.
Yeah,
What you
really.
said well, impacts both levels. So we have the emerging leader giving them permission to take that assessment, or at least internally realizing that they want more, because 71% of employees are seeking growth, development, advancement. But again, here's us giving you permission to go have the conversations with your leaders and managers and say, I want to do more, I want to be more, help me in that. And then also the leader, the organizational leader, that's the supervisor, they have to realize that it costs more to replace somebody than most training that you do. And there are plenty of studies out there, and the most recent one that I saw is that it's a $7 ROI for every dollar invested on leadership development within an organization.
Absolutely.
So for every dollar spent on an employee to become more, they get $7 more in revenue and productivity. I'm not sure if it's which one it is, but in productivity, I'm going to go with that one. So when they realize that, and then it costs, I mean, the stats vary, but upwards of 50 to 150 to 200% to replace somebody when onboarding is such a challenge sometimes. So what you said is a key thing that people are learning about and being self-aware and willing to have those hard conversations, and rather than ghosting. A lot of younger generation, I mean, in the dating world and all these things, we're so used to, okay, this isn't serving me, I'm just going to bounce. There's no 2 weeks notice, there's no nothing, I'm just gone. So let's have these conversations, because they don't want to lose you, you don't want to be lost.
Nope.
Let's actually just have the conversation.
Exactly. And you know what you just said about young people? You and I just had a quick conversation before this started that I have been honored by Icon magazine, and I'm the March cover story. But one of the things about being in Icon magazine is giving back. And something I've wanted to do for many years, and it's finally getting done now, is I'm donating a number of motivational maps to young people and to people who are going back into the workforce, so they can match what it is that they enjoy, they feel great about, that fulfills them with the work they're doing. And you know what a fulfilled worker who is more engaged, employer gets more from them and they get more from their jobs. Because the way I look at it, engagement is a two-way street. You cannot do it by yourself, either one. So part of my mission is to educate at leadership level and the grassroots level, because you both have obligations.
That's great. And Akeela, is it Icon? Is it IKON?
ICON.
ICON magazine. Okay, great. Cool. Just wanted to make sure that people were taking a look. If they wanted to find out more about you, then they'd be able to search your name, and then certainly the Icon magazine, which we would be looking forward to that coming out. So make sure when you post it, you tag us so that we can have some conversations with you about that. So
Thank you. It came out today. I just haven't had time to send it out to people like yourself, but I'm going to.
okay, that sounds great. Well, we certainly appreciate you sharing this wisdom with us on the podcast series. Really great. So we'd like to just find out from you, what was a question that you thought we might ask you that we didn't?
I can't say I had any question in mind, because I'm open.
Very good. Very nice. And see, there you were, integrity once again, being straightforward instead of trying to fake it somewhere along the way. But the reason that we asked that question to you is it gives us an opportunity to remind our listeners that when they're interviewing for jobs, they should be prepared for that question. That comes up often times in an interview when someone will ask, well, what is something that we didn't, or tell us something you haven't told us yet. And you want to be prepared for what that is so that you're not rambling, you're not just creating it on the spot, but you're prepared. But because of you being the professional that you are, we didn't prep you for that ahead of time. We wanted to see what you do. So
well, thank you.
yeah, it's all great. Well, once again, thank you for being a part of the podcast. And like we always do for all of our cohesion culture programs, we leave our listeners with this mantra. You don't have to know everything.
You just need to be teachable.
See you on the other side.